Hyperliquid just did something really big, and so that's why I've actually gone and opened a spot position on Hyperliquid already, because I do think that we have seen some really fantastic buying prices recently. We're gonna be jumping into all of this, of course, in a little bit, but I did want to go straight on into the news that we have seen recently from Hyperliquid, which I think could be absolutely massive, and to be honest, could completely set the new paradigm for crypto TradFi kind of interrelation. So let's go check it out. We can see here that Hyperliquid Strategies Inc. files an S1 with the SEC to raise up to $1 billion through a 160 million share offering, with part of the proceeds to be used for potential HYPE token purchases. Now, again, we don't know 100% what this is for and how this will impact things, but if that is true, that is of course massive, because what this does do sort of in an indirect way is it does give HYPE some level of valuation based on the overall valuation of the company, which I do think is cool. That's not going to be potentially like a residual thing. There's obviously still a lot of questions here that need to be answered, but this essentially raising money from the traditional markets to buy back the HYPE token, I think makes a ton of sense. And it could, depending on how those HYPE tokens are used, depending on whether they're used to like essentially stake and then provide yield to those particular shares, could be a really, really interesting type of model. So I'm going to be watching this very, very closely over the next little while, but I think that this is massive. I mean, if this does well and we see some level of success here, we could see this happen with a whole bunch of different altcoins, particularly ones that are as valuable as Hyperliquid. You have to remember, Hyperliquid is generating a bunch of revenue. I think Hyperliquid has the most revenue per employee out of any company in the entire world. So it's definitely like it's onto something, right? And so if we see Hyperliquid with this, kind of fundraise through the public markets, if we see that have success, that would be a very, very interesting type of dynamic and new paradigm kind of going forward. So if we look at the Hyperliquid price, we can see kind of since this announcement, we have seen a nice little move up in Hyperliquid price. You can see here we have seen kind of the bottoms down in like the $33 to $34 range. We did see prices hit as low as $20 here on that massive liquidation push. But, I actually have been buying in this kind of $33 to $34 range. I've been starting to build up a bag. I think we are kind of at a very high fear type of market. I have not, gone in and bought all of the Hyperliquid tokens that I want to buy, just in the case that we start to see, maybe like $30 range, and maybe even we go down to like sub 30, we hit like 26, or we go back and hit something like, I don't know, $20, whatever. Like there is a path further down here for Hyperliquid. But in the event we start to see the market turn around, I do think that this is a relatively good position to be buying in. And so that is why I'm doing that. Now, of course, that's not a solicitation to buy. That is not financial advice. That is not anything like that. You need to be making your own decisions here. But for me, Hyperliquid has really been a massive outperformer over the past several months, and it has done really well just by pure fundamental statistics. I mean, we can look at, its revenue per employee, it's profitability. There's a whole bunch of different things that we can look at that shows that Hyperliquid really has done very, very well. So if that is going to continue, and if perp dexes, which I think I can't see any reason why it wouldn't, but if perp dexes continue to show this level of success, I think we can see Hyperliquid only continue to go up from here, which is why I wanted to start a position. And then, potentially we see this continue to go back, hit all-time highs, and ideally maybe even we go above. I do think it is possible that we go and potentially even hit triple-digit numbers at some point. I don't know exactly when that is, of course, but that to me is a good time to be buying right now. Of course, again, be making your own decisions. Now, if we do look at the market, you can see that Hyperliquid is up today. If we look at the rest of the crypto market, this is the month, not looking good here, but we can see today a pretty green day overall. We can see Aster also up, similar to Hyperliquid. Aster is essentially kind of the Hyperliquid equivalent on the BNB chain, so they're kind of a peer, I guess you could say, of Hyperliquid. So they tend to move relatively similarly in terms of direction and magnitude, though I will say Aster has been much more volatile. I think people feel a lot more comfortable with Hyperliquid because it's more of a known commodity at this point. Now, we can see, though, overall pretty good day in the market, though we have seen a red week. And then we also have seen a really red month with some things really taking a beating. Now, that is another one of the reasons why I wanted to be looking at Hyperliquid, is because you can see down here, Hyperliquid only down about 13% in a month that has just been absolutely smashing crypto coins. So I think it's actually held up quite well, and it's held up very, very well relative to many of the other alts that we can see here in the market. It's actually kind of comparing relatively similarly to, like, it actually outperformed XRP. You can see it's only down 13, almost 14%, where XRP is down about 15.5%. You also could see it's comparable to Solana. Solana is only down about 11, Hyperliquid's down about 13, and then of course you have things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, which it's down much more substantially than, but I think that makes sense because those are kind of setting the gold standard for just crypto overall right now. So things looking really, really good though for Hyperliquid. I do think that we continue to see this move. Of course, as we do know, we need to see what happens next with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the one. You can see I do have some trades open here on Bitcoin. I have been DCing as the market has been moving down. I did also actually buy some down here at the bottom at like the 103, 104 range. I did sell those when we did get up to like that 113 range here. So I did DCA as we came back down. You can see that one is up almost 15% at this point. And then the other DCA we did just down about 1% right now. So we're getting very, very close as we continue to see the market move up. So we'll be tracking those over the next little while. But if you're wondering why I am doing this strategy and why I am seeing what I'm seeing here, we just talked about this in an earlier video. You can go take a look at that video to check it out. But this is essentially what we are seeing on the Bitcoin structure. We're seeing this descending channel. As we get towards the top, I'll be looking to sell. As we get towards the bottom, I'll be looking to buy. Very, very simple strategy, nothing too crazy to it. But ideally, as it relates to Hyperliquid, if we are going to see altcoins like Hyperliquid continue to run, we will need to see new highs coming for Bitcoin. So right now, that's why I'm mostly tracking Bitcoin. I'm mostly engaged with Bitcoin specifically. And then as we see this breakout and ideally a further run back up to all-time highs, that is when we should start to see things like Hyperliquid be reaching their all-time highs and potentially even passing well beyond that. So that is personally what I am looking for. Now, if we look at kind of some retraces and some possible price targets here for Hyperliquid, you will see right now we are kind of dancing on that 236 level. Again, I'm ignoring this wick just because I think that was a little bit of an aberration here. But you'll see, Hyperliquid price does actually hold up relatively well with the fibs here. You'll see, 236, we're kind of running into that level of resistance right now. We've already kind of been potentially partially rejected. We have the 382. That looks like it's been a decent level of support in the past. We also can see 0.5, a little bit of some price action going on here as well. 618, again, a little bit of some price action getting towards the top here. And then 786, we have seen this hold up as a initial kind of bounce level when we did look to make that new all-time high. And then, of course, we're back to all-time highs. And then fib extension ranges, we could see here, 1618 is about $75, and then the 2618, we're now into that triple digit range. And I do think for a coin like this, with the hype that it's had, with the fundamental strength that it has, seeing a 2618 and breaching over that $100 mark is definitely very possible. Again, the $100 mark is a huge, huge, huge point of psychological resistance. So we may not quite break over the $100 range, but that is something that does potentially seem to be possible. If we do break over it, we could see some major selling pressure and have that be a decent bit of support. So that is ultimately what I am looking for personally, what I'm looking at with Hyperliquid. I personally have seen enough to start a position into it. Of course, if price does continue to go down, I'll continue to buy more. I do think Hyperliquid is not going anywhere. I will say there is risk in everything. The main risk that I am seeing currently is the dilution. Hyperliquid does still have some dilution to go from my recollection. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but there is going to be some inherent and innate selling pressure built into the chart. So if we do start to lose some momentum, that could, of course, hurt a little bit. So that is, of course, the main risk I am identifying and seeing. You, of course, need to make sure that you are doing your own research, understanding things like that as far as various different risk factors before you are making your own decision. So make sure that you are doing that. If you did find the information in the video useful, of course, you know what to do. And then also, I would love to hear anything that you have as it relates to Hyperliquid. What do you think about this potential S1? I've seen some complaints that people think that it's not really in the best spirit of decentralization. to be listing on a centralized exchange like that, the most centralized of all being kind of like the stock exchange. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with that? Do you think that this is good in terms of kind of bridging the worlds of crypto and TradFi together? What are your thoughts? I would love to hear it. Just make sure to drop those in the comment section below, and I do read and respond to all of those. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.